And welcome to Balancing Life and Content Creation webinar. Today, we're going to talk about meet Sharonda, and she's going to share how she manages to balance her crazy busy life with her content creation business. My name is Paola Mendez, and I am the founder of the Blogger Union. The Blogger Union is a network of blogger communities dedicated to growing our members' brands and incomes through meetups, workshops, and brand collaborations. If you'd like to receive email notifications for brand collaborations, local events, or upcoming webinars, make sure you register as a member at thebloggerunion.com. It's free to be a member. And my personal blog is Coral Gables Love if you'd like to check that out. Our speaker today is Sharonda Stewart. She runs the Sporty Mommas. It's an apparel line, it's a blog, and she lives a busy life, and we're really excited to talk to her today. Welcome, Sharonda.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, we're so excited to have you here today. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Okay. Well, I'm Sharonda Stewart. I am a wife and a mom of 3 beautiful kids. They are 15, almost 13, and 10. I'm a Miami native, born and raised here. I went to Coral Gables Senior High. And I just love empowering and inspiring women and moms of all ages to look and feel their best, to find and do the things that they love, and to give back.
I love that. You partner with nonprofit organizations all the time with your brands. That is really cool. So just to get a little bit of a perspective, if you could tell us what are all the things you have on your plate right now that you are balancing?
Oh, okay. So I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom. So for those of you wondering, that is my job. My job is to run the house, but I'm not alone. My husband is very active. He's retired, so he's very hands-on and active with, helping raise the kids and breakfast and drop off and pick up. So we do, we have a team, a pretty strong team. Like, it's not just me by myself. So besides running the house, there's the blog. It's just sportymommas.com. I have an apparel line that's not super active right now because I've been focusing so much on my social media growth. But I do have an apparel line where I update the website and merchandise, every 2 months or so. It's not as frequently as I used to. I'm a part of a few different organizations. I write for Miami Moms blog. I'm a part of Film City, Miami. Yeah, just a whole bunch of different things. But what I really love is, using my platform to uplift and motivate and share my story and share just inspiration, to remind us that, we've all been through something or going through something, and, we're not alone. There's a lot of different ways to get support. And just, I'm like the cheerleader. I used to be a cheerleader. Like, I'm a cheerleader, I want to encourage and, help brighten your day.
Oh, that's so sweet. So just to let everybody know who's joined us, we're going to have a conversation with Sharonda, and then at the end of the conversation, if you have any questions, we will take all of your questions. So if a question pops up along the way, feel free to add it to the chat, and we'll make sure to scroll all the way back in so that we don't miss any of your questions. So, Sharonda, you are a stay-at-home mom of 3 kids, you have your blog, you are part of other organizations. What are some strategies that you use to be able to do all of those things?
The number one thing is using an organizer, like some kind of calendar. A lot of us use our phones, but I keep, I guess going back, I used to be a teacher before I became a stay-at-home mom. So going back to like having your desk calendar and lesson plans, like that's pretty much how I run, my life and my days. I keep everything on the calendar. Now I'm over 40 and I forget a lot of stuff. So I just make sure, like, if I don't write it down, like I told my husband to get something from the grocery store, and he's like, write it down, send it to me. And I'm like, what? You can't remember? And I'm like, wait, I don't remember all the time either. So I write everything down now. And that helps me keep, everything organized. And I literally go back and check everything off. So even with the 3 kids and sports and doctor's appointments and practices and piano, everything, like I have to write down, like, this one has practice on Mondays, this one has speech on Tuesdays, this one has, so just to keep everything, flowing and where I can remember.
Absolutely. That's so funny. I also run my life with to-do lists, and it also, I feel like it helps me feel more empowered about all the things that I'm doing, because just that feeling of scratching something off your list, you feel so productive and that you're getting things done. So I love that strategy of using to-do lists.
Yeah.
But something that we were talking about the other day that I find that is a brilliant idea is that you started the concept of office hours. If you could tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yes. Well, since I'm a full-time mom, and I didn't mention earlier, so 2 of the kids have been in school pretty much the whole year, but my son has been home. So with him being home, it's not like normal, like you just go and work. Like, I have to do breakfast, I have to do lunch, I have to fix, if there's a Wi-Fi issue or some computer printer issue, like there's always something. So I designated office hours. So my office hours are between 10 and borderline 2, usually 10 and 1 or 10 and 2. And that's where I schedule meetings, appointments, telephone calls, just everything, emails, blogging, everything is supposed to take place between 10 and 2. It doesn't always happen that way, though. Not at all. But it gives me, just when I decided to take the blogging life more seriously and start monetizing from it, it gave me structure, and it gave me, like your job, like, these are my office hours. It's not, I do work outside of those hours, don't get me wrong at all. My husband's like, get off the phone. But it gives me structure, and I know, like, between 10 and 1:30 or 10 and 2, because I have to pick up, my youngest. Those are my hours. I don't schedule any meetings. I usually don't blog or write or do anything after those hours. Those are kind of like my, like, zone in, like, this is the time. But I do give myself, I told Paola, I do give myself, like, Mondays is kind of like a day to just kind of decompress from the weekend. It's usually a lot of stuff going on, birthday parties, lessons, games. So Monday, my office hours aren't as concrete, because sometimes I just rest. Like, I just need to chill, catch up on whatever is in the house, read. So Mondays I'm a little more flexible, but yeah, pretty much Tuesday to Fridays I only do, specific tasks between 10 and 2.
Those two um, tools that you use, I think, are brilliant. And I feel like we just go about our day creating content and living our life and trying to balance everything, and just not taking the time to put in a few strategies, like giving yourself a time off for a break to recharge. Sometimes we just feel like, oh, we just can keep going, and the weekend is, the time that I have more time on my hands, so I'll just work the weekend, and then the week starts again, and then that's how the burnout starts, because you're just burning at all ends, and then there's none of you left at the end because you've just been working nonstop. So I think that that taking Mondays off to relax and re-energize is super important. And then the other thing I love about your office hours is that compressing all of the work, all of your business work into a small window, I believe it makes you so much more productive. Because if you think, well, I have all day to do this, so then you do a little bit here, you do a little bit there, and I feel like you don't focus and you're not as productive. Versus giving yourself a small window every day, you're like, okay, this is the time I'm gonna get work done, so
Yeah.
let's get some work done.
Um,
So Brianna is saying, yes, burnout is real. Absolutely.
it is
And
real.
and it comes and goes, because we have times that are busy as content creators, and then we have times that are slower. but you definitely have to take care of yourself and be very conscious of giving yourself the time to rest. And it's not only that you're not doing work, but to also mentally not be worrying about I should be doing more during that time, because you said this Monday is going to be time off. So you're allowing your mind a break from keeping that to-do list running of all the things that you should do.
Mhm.
So, okay, I love that. So let's get to how you get all of your photographs for your content, because you work with a photographer, right?
Yeah. So late last year, well, before last year, I started working with the photographer periodically. But when more deals started coming quickly, I realized like I couldn't create the content that I wanted by myself. I'm not good with shooting my own content. So I'll admit that that was what led me. It wasn't because I was making more money or anything. It was just like, okay, I need to invest to get better because there's some things that I'm just not that good at. Editing and and like trying to move the tripod, and I get frustrated. So I started consistently working with someone last November, and we meet monthly. So I'll have my outfits picked out for that shoot, or if it's a brand collaborations that I'm working on, I'll have everything lined up for that shoot. And at starting in November, we were just shooting once a month. But then when things started getting like super busy, like last month we shot 3 times because I had so many things coming at once. And sometimes when you're working with brands, they don't always send you everything right away. So I might normally I would say, okay, I'm going to meet with her on the 15th of the month. So for the content that's due, by the end of the month or the first of the next month, we'll shoot all of that. But if I don't have the product that I'm supposed to be shooting at the time I'm shooting, then that pushes me to another, I have to schedule another shoot. So last month was like the first month where we literally had like 3 sessions. But it helps me to not worry about the editing part. Again, it's scheduled between the office hours, so it's a part of my, my work day. We meet. Usually before we meet, I kind of run over and let her know, what's coming up, what I need, locations. Because of COVID, we've been shooting a lot around my house, which we made some magic around the house. But usually if we weren't here, we pick a location, try to pick a location that's not too crowded. And yeah, it's all planned out though. It's all planned out. We have a strategy session, usually a phone call before we meet. Then we meet to shoot. And then, she edits, and then I have to send them to the brands for their, critique or whatever it is, approval. And then, we keep it moving. So it's been interesting. I love her. I love working with her. We have a good partnership. She's a part of my team now. And I appreciate the hard work and, how much she's helped me, and we're helping each other because I'm teaching her and she's teaching me. So it's cool.
That's amazing. I think that's also one of the things that helps you is that you you were conscious that okay, I am not the greatest photographer and I don't have the photo editing skills. So you saw that opportunity to be able to hand that work over to someone else. And I think that not only frees up your time in terms of the doing everything yourself and getting burnout that way, but also it elevated your content, and so brands are really excited to work with you because you have like really nice photography. I know that when we
They
work
know you're putting in the work. Like I am putting in the work.
so
Yeah.
I think that that's also key, finding the things that you are able to hand off to someone else. And I know that in the beginning when we're starting out, like we don't have brand deals coming in on a regular basis to pay for photo shoots constantly and stuff like that. But like Sharonda did it is she increased it as the money started coming in. So it kind of goes that way. But you can also find people who are starting out as photographers and are trying to grow their portfolios, and that's how you can help each other and find a partner.
Well, another thing I was gonna say, down here, especially because of COVID, I don't see bloggers doing it a lot, but finding another blogger in your area and getting together to shoot each other, I think is really, really, really good and effective in a great way. Like, you're saving money because you're helping each other. Because I can edit on some of the apps, but certain things, I couldn't capture myself. But definitely if you have like a blogging buddy, or even on here, if you find out, hey, we're both in Miami, we're both in Fort Lauderdale, let's get together and create some content. Like, I think collaboration is like huge right now. And that's what's basically going to take you to the next level, like learning to reach out, maybe not ready to hire someone to pay them, but you can always get together and create, magic with someone that's, working towards the same thing that you're working towards.
I love that. Absolutely. That we go back to our motto of kind collaboration, and it's more fun. It's more fun when you go out and you do it with
And it
someone.
leads to more things. It leads to more opportunities and more meetups and more, hey, I got this call. You want to come? Like, it's awesome. Like, it's the best thing. And we need more of that. We need more of that.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay. So we talked about how you get your content in terms of the photographs. Can you walk us through your whole process of how you create content for your blog and your social media?
Okay. So if it's not like a paid collaboration, where they tell you, they pretty much guide you and say, hey, this is what we want. They even go so far sometimes to tell you the color scheme that they want. So that's different from, hey, it's June, I need to create, fun summer content that my followers, would love. And another thing that I want to stress is a lot of times when I create content outside of the, paid collaborations, is like really stuff that I genuinely love, and like to do. So that's what I want to express. Like, don't worry about what other people really like. Like, do what you like, do what you love. So if it's, walking the beach or flying a kite with your kids, like stuff that, really brings you joy, that's going to radiate, off your page. Like, you're going to see like, wow, she really loves, flying her kite with her kids, or, oh, she loves, playing outside, or whatever it is, or she loves shopping, but just, creating genuine content that, expresses who you really are. I think that's like, huge. So for example, June's coming up, it's summer, it's travel. So I haven't done my June shoot yet. But when we do, it's going to be very, summery, like summer dresses, summer colors for workout. I always mix up something kind of like high fashion. Definitely is going to be a fitness, some kind of workout attire, because I love, fitness and health and wellness. And then it's going to be, one or two things with my husband or my kids, like to show, family, what we do. We're, it's always the five of us. So planning, so June's theme is summer, like summer's here, the kids are out of school. So I'll take that and just kind of create content around that. If it's August, it's back to school. So, picking out clothes, picking out shoes, school supplies, and then a lot of, I like to integrate a lot of mindfulness. So I'll have like, each week I have like different themes, or a couple of days out of the week. So on Mondays is mindfulness. Wednesdays is wellness Wednesday. So it's going to be a wellness tip. And Fridays is fashionista Fridays. Usually Thursdays, sometimes it's a throwback. So you can just find, like, pick your day, pick like your vibe and what you like and how you express yourself. And I pretty much create content around those three, days, but I post every day. I post a lot. I do post every day, but those 3 days, you're going to get a mindfulness tip, you're going to get a wellness tip, and then you're going to get a fashion tip. So that's kind of how I guide, amongst the big monthly theme. I break down the weeks with those little mini topics.
I love that, because what you did was that you created a feature revolving around your different pillars. So now you gave each pillar a specific day. So you will always have content for all of your pillars every week, because that's how you planned your content. So I really like how you're always making sure to have content for all your pillars, because when we don't do features, like a daily feature for a concept,
Mhm.
then and you talk about fitness and you talk about travel and you talk about fashion, then you might start posting a lot about travel, and then all of a sudden, oh, I haven't posted about fashion in my social or in my blog for a long time, because you don't have that feature that keeps coming on a weekly basis to remind you. Yeah, you have, these are all of your pillars, keep all of your pillars topped up. So that is really cool. um so what about when you have created all of your content, and let's say it's a blog post, how do
Mhm.
you, what is your, once you publish, what is your process? Because we all have to market our content or else people will go see it. So what do you do?
So I usually have like, again, going back to my teaching days, I'll have like, my little diagram. What am I going to write about? And then I'll kind of pull from there. Again, it's usually going to fall, in between those, it's going to either be some kind of motivation or mindfulness, fitness or wellness, and then fashion. So whatever topic it is for that week, like earlier this week, I talked about mindfulness tips, managing your time. Um, so I took some pictures that I already had and just threw them in there. And I just shared 5 tips of how I manage my time. It wasn't a big, it wasn't a long piece. It was quick. I'm usually quick and to the point. I'm not long-winded, but it got the message out there. So I would, do my little brainstorming rough draft. Um, I use WordPress, so I go ahead and have everything in there. I just don't publish it yet, and then I'll go back to it in 1 or 2 times. And before I hit publish, I'll do the SEO. I'll edit. Sometimes I even publish it to go back and make sure everything's working and the links are going to the right place. Just so a month or a couple of weeks later, it's like, hey, this was bouncing to the wrong site or whatever. So it's good to double check your links. And SEO is something that I'm still working on. I'm still trying to figure out. The more I write, the better I'm getting at it. But yeah, so then I'll push it out. I love, like, once I have the post live, I love sharing it on Pinterest. I think we talked about that. I'm starting to learn how Pinterest, if you create, a pin with your blog posts or directing it back to your site, um, like not using just a regular image, but using like something with a header or 5 tips to balance, your life as a busy mom, like something that's gonna catch the attention. It turns around and starting to drive a lot more traffic to my website. So that's something that I learned, in the last few months. I'm like, hey, like Pinterest is kind of, where it's at as far as like driving traffic to the website. So Pinterest, I'll even share on LinkedIn if it's something valuable, like mindfulness tips. I don't really share all my fashion stuff on LinkedIn, but I know the fashionistas are there too. But like mindfulness and wellness, I'll even go as far as putting it on, well, definitely have Facebook, Twitter. So I'll post the link to all my social pages, hoping to drive more traffic.
Oh, I love that. It's so funny that you mentioned SEO, because we have an SEO workshop this Thursday, and I'm sharing the link in the chat if you'd like to check that out. But absolutely, if you have a blog, you definitely want to invest the time in search engine optimization, because like 90% of the interactions that we have online start with a Google search. So if you are not optimizing your content for that, then you're definitely missing out on potential visitors. So that is really good that you're working on that. And it's so funny that you mentioned Pinterest also drives a lot of traffic, because Pinterest is more of a visual search engine than a social media network. So that is great that you are working on increasing the traffic to your blog. So that's really cool.
It's been a game changer. So if you guys aren't doing it, I highly recommend it, because I was like, wait, I've been missing this.
Absolutely. And then, okay.
Oh,
So
another thing, I'm sorry. I
go
just thought
ahead.
about it. Going back to Pinterest, because I know, like, I don't know how everyone's using Pinterest, but when I first started using it, it was just like pinning cute ideas for birthday parties and this and this and that. But now I'm finding like there's a pin for everything. So you might think, oh, it's nothing, but I go to Pinterest for inspiration for fashion, for my shoots, for upcoming shoots, for poses, for locations, like where to shoot in Miami, where to shoot in Palm Beach. There's a pin for that. So if you're not using Pinterest for that, I highly recommend that too.
That is also a great suggestion. There's lots of great content on Pinterest as well. So let's talk about a little bit of how content creation usually it comes in cycles. There's times where it's really busy, and then there's times where it's slower. So the holidays, for example, Christmas time at the end of the year, it gets really busy for content creators. And then early in the beginning of the year, it kind of slows down depending on your niche, right? So how do you deal with that ups and downs in terms of balancing your content creation and maybe the terms of making money with your campaigns and partnerships?
Yeah. So another thing, like you said, like November, December was like popping, like everybody wanted, you to share. And however, one thing, if you haven't started working with brands yet, is they don't always pay you right away. And I think that's something that needs to be talked about more because, when you're first getting started, like last year was my first year really starting to, see a little bit. It's not a lot of money. I'm not making a lot of money yet. But it was like the first time I started seeing, you're like, oh, okay, this is nice. I can get used to this. But so there's a campaign that I worked on where I had to create content for December. The content didn't push out till March, and I still haven't received payment from it. So that gives you an example of how long you can go without receiving, money for a project that you worked. Like I worked hard on that. It took a long time because it was different shoots. I had to get my family involved. So that'll give you, an example. Again, earlier in the conversation, I told you guys that this is, my blogging is part-time. I work a full-time, mentally, but as far as like income, it's a part-time. So I don't rely on the blog to support me. So when it's a downtime, it's not like, oh, I'm waiting for a check. It's like, okay, I need to create more content. So that's when I go in and I, find inspiration and find like fillers. Plus another thing is brands don't want to see you always just working with brands. So you have to have, creative, authentic content, like personal content. They don't just want to see, oh, she's always pushing a product or she's always sharing something from somebody else. So November, December was really, really busy. January kind of slowed down a little bit. February, March. So you're going to have like these cycles. And what I did in between the cycles was I kept shooting. So I kept my monthly photo shoot with my photographer and just kept creating, just creating for the blog, creating for Pinterest. I share some of my photos from Instagram. I started sharing on Pinterest and noticing that, hey, I'm getting more views over there than on Instagram. Like, how is that? Because, we're focused on Instagram. So just continuing to write content. So I still have my, wellness tips, my fashion tips, different things. So I'm still creating, waiting, you're waiting for the cycle to heat back up. But what I'm noticing is some bloggers and influencers, like they're still getting deals during those off months. We just might not see it being published until a busy season. So there's a way to continually have deals, which I'm seeing like now. I don't have like in March or early April was like I had like 5 or 6 in a row, like they were coming. And then the next month was like 1 or 2. And then the next month's like 1 or 2. So you're gonna see, this like cycle or waves where you're gonna be like really, really hitting it until you get to that level where they're just like knocking at your door every day. But the key is to keep creating, doing the things that you love and sharing your message and sharing, your gifts and your why. I didn't show up to Instagram to be an influencer. Like I was doing Sporty Mommas, I was doing other things. This just kind of fell into my lap. So if you're cooking or if you're doing other things, keep doing those things. Like, don't think like, oh, I'm going to stop. Like, keep doing those things, keep doing the things that you love, and then they'll find you.
That is great advice. And when it comes to payment terms, which is what you experienced about signing up for a collaboration, and then it's like over 6 months and you haven't gotten paid for your work, I would not hesitate to negotiate with a brand. When a brand comes knocking on your door and they say, our payment terms is 120 months, which means that net 120 days means you're not going to get paid until 120 days after you deliver your content or publish. You can always negotiate that, and then if they won't budge on those payment terms, then it's up to you to decide if you're willing to take that risk that it's 6 months down the road. Is this person working with this brand still going to be working there?
Yeah.
Are they still going to send me my check? The billing department going to know who I am? Stuff like that.
It's true.
So those
But
are.
I did know going into that campaign that it was going to be a long term, because the actual campaign wasn't released, and then they had like the cutoff date. So I knew it was going to be a while, but I was just expressing that because sometimes like you're thinking, oh, you're going to get this check, and then it's like 3-4 months after it closed and you're still waiting. But it's usually 60 days. I think that 60 days has been the longest that I had prior to this campaign, but it hasn't been 60 days since the campaign closed. So that's why I think they're still holding out.
I know.
It's coming. I know it's coming. So
Well, that's good. But a lot of our members have gotten burned because PR representatives tend to switch companies a lot, and sometimes the wait is so long, and they're trying to reach out. That person left the company, so it gets more complicated. And
yeah.
also, another suggestion is when you see that they're hiring you and they ask for you to create the content so far in advance for approval, and then the publish date is months and months out, then I would try to negotiate milestones with the brand. So like the first milestone is that I create the content for your approval, and at that point you receive partial payment, and then when you publish you receive the rest of the payment, or whatever net term, whatever. Just know that you can always negotiate, and that
I'm going to send my contracts to you. I'm going to start sending my contracts to you, Paula.
Yeah, well, that's why all the brand collaborations, we're very conscious about working with our members, and we try to pay our members as soon as we receive the deliverables and they're published. Mm-hmm. And then to avoid that uncomfortable conversation. So, okay, wonderful. Let's talk about what are some obstacles that you have that are prevent you from achieving that balance. We all have those obstacles. If you guys would like to share your obstacles in the chat. What about you, Sharonda?
I think when we talk, the biggest thing is always time management. Because you always want to be like doing more. Like I know me, it's like I always want to just be doing everything and doing more. And sometimes that means something else has to give. So if I'm working on something and, if the kids have something at school or somewhere, it's like you want to be in two places at once and you can't. So that's been a challenge, because for the first time I actually didn't show up to it. I let my daughter know I wasn't coming, and my husband went instead. But it was like the first time where I was like, I was working, like I had something, that I was doing. But it was like the first time as a stay-at-home mom where you're like, wait, I'm working. I can't be at the school at between that time. So I had mommy guilt. Like, I felt bad. But I was blessed and I was thankful that my husband, was able to attend. So my child was, she was happy and loved and couldn't wait to show me what happened, the pictures and stuff. But I think as moms, especially, a lot of us are stay-at-home moms, blogging and stuff, when you start working, because now this is starting to become a part-time job, you have to kind of say yes and no to things, and sometimes you don't get it right. Like I'm like, well, I could have done this on another day, or I could have said no to that and showed up at the school or showed up on the field trip or whatever it was. So that part, still kind of weighs on me sometimes. But for the most part, it's just, time management and, the mommy guilt and, am I doing too much right now? Like, do I really need to be doing this all the time? Like that kind of stuff kind of plays, the dialogue is kind of playing like,
Ab-
but yeah.
Absolutely. And we all have our things that we struggle with to be able to achieve that balance. And one thing that I struggle with is that you also mentioned was like, I've been working all day really hard, and then I'm going to sleep and my thought is I should be doing more. You go to bed thinking, oh, I could have done more. Tomorrow I want to do more. And that constant thinking eventually takes a toll on you and leads to that burnout that we're talking about. So,
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that are there some strategies that you have able to use to try to help with that mom guilt or that feeling of you could be doing more? Or
I'm like heavy on like affirmations and, listening to positive speakers. I listen to them pretty much all day when I'm not, just trying to keep the vibes up. So I'm heavy on, you are where you're supposed to be, you're right where you're supposed to be. Um, Taking time out, if I find myself kind of like, you know, like too stressed or too anxious to say, okay, I need 10 minutes to go, and I'll go listen to a meditation or do, a 10-minute yoga on the Peloton app or something to kind of break up to get that negative vibe, out. Um, so meditation is really, really good for me, and writing it out. I realized the other day, it was like I was holding a lot in because this is the end of the school year. We talked about that too. So it's a lot going on. And it's not just a lot going on with the school. It's like, okay, what am I going to do for the summer? I'm going to have 3 kids home, so you're starting, and then you still have to write and do, brand deals. So it's a lot. So I found myself like, okay, I'm starting to get anxious, and I hadn't really felt that in a long time. So I had, I pulled out my journal and I just sat and I just wrote and I got it all out. And I was like, wow, I hadn't done that in a month. So I don't know if you guys are into journaling or, writing out. Just like I write out my goals and, plans for, the quarter. Just writing it out, like, where are you, where you want to be, how are you feeling right now? What could you be doing different? And a lot of times what we could be doing different is just being aware of where we are at that moment, like just being present and embracing that moment and not worrying about summer vacation plans or the next collaboration deal, but just, being, present, and just sometimes it's just taking that 10 minutes and just like chilling, like just don't, just be. And then you get like a burst, like, okay, I got this, and you keep going. So yeah.
I love that. I love that being present. And I feel something that goes hand in hand with being present that definitely helps is that gratitude, just having that gratitude for where you are, what you have accomplished, and what you have in your life really helps that to slow your brain down with that constant wanting to go and do more and go, 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 go. So those are great strategies. Thank you so much, Sharonda, for sharing those. So I just have one last question for Sharonda. So if you guys have any questions you'd like to share or for us to discuss, please add them to the chat now. I know we had a few during the conversation, so I will start with those first, but add your questions to the chat. Okay, so the last question is, as content creators, social media is always on. So how do you deal with that?
That's hard. I see Jasmine up there. I see her face. That is hard. You're always on, and you have to find that balance between, what you want to share, what you don't want to share, and how often. I feel like, it consumes us. I'm on there, like I said, my husband's like, get off the phone. Like, you're always on the phone. I'm like, always, trying to, stay update, comment, post, share, all of these things. But I make sure Like, and this is for like TV, radio, everything. Like I shut everything off. We stay up late. My house is like, we're always up. But by like 10:45, 11, when the news comes on at 11, I shut the news off. I shut the phone. I turn the phone down. I don't check social media. Like I'm not like one of those scrollers in the middle of the night. Like, no, I shut everything down, and I shut the TV down because I was starting to carry, all the stuff that was going on in the world. Just for peace, I would shut that down. I listened to, a meditation and just kind of detach from, everything in the day and just kind of, drift off to sleep. But I am on there quite a lot. The phone measures, I probably spend about 6 hours a day on my phone, which is a lot when you think about how much we're awake. Um, and it's hard. Like that's something that I'm working on. I know some people, they only gone for an hour a day, but I know for me, like what I've been trying to do, to build is, because you don't just have Instagram, you have to be on Twitter, you have to be on Pinterest, you have to do. So, finding the time to, spend a little bit of time on each site, it's hard. And I don't have anybody helping me do that. Like if I could find someone to help me do that, that would be amazing. So, but I think, shutting it down and not just shutting off social media, just shutting off everything, has helped me, get more rest and, just be more at peace. And then you start all over again the next day. But definitely, I don't want to stay, I don't stay on the phone. I know some people go on like, checking Facebook in the middle of the night because they couldn't sleep or whatever. Like, no, because I'm like, as soon as that light hits, then I'm up and I'm like, I can't get back to sleep and I need my rest. I love my sleep.
Well, rest is so important, so it's good that you like it. But that's a great idea, shutting off, turning everything off in at the night. I'm gonna give it a try. But for me, it's also, I struggle with it, but I try to, like, for example, I've been trying to post more often, trying the reels, posting reels
I've seen them,
consistently.
super cute.
Thank you, thank you, and it's working. It's working. Like before that, I wasn't posting as regularly, but I was, I was just losing followers consistently, and it's only been a week of reels, and my followers are starting to grow again. But the thing that I do, even though I'm posting on a daily basis, I try to be conscious that I don't have to be on Instagram all the time for it to be successful. So
Mhm.
I post, and when I post, I say for a little bit in case people are engaging with the post, so I can make sure I respond comments. And that is something that is truly important. So I make sure I respond to every single comment, and I go a step further. I go, and if you post a comment on any of my posts, I will respond to your comment in my post, and I will go to your Instagram account and find one of your posts that speaks to me, and I will comment on your post. So I will do that, but I won't do that all day. When I post, and I will check in a couple times a day, and I
Mhm.
will, with intention, do that, have like these real conversations with the people I'm engaging with on there, and then I'm off and I'm doing other stuff because it will suck the time
It's a
out of
lot.
you.
It's,
That's
but
what.
I can say the reels, I can see where you can put a reel out there and not worry about it. Like you can, like your post, to me, you have to like be on there engaging with that post because after an hour it gets lost. But you can put a reel on there and the reel does its thing and you can come back the next day and it's still doing its thing. So reels is where, reels is kind of where it's at right now too. Like
Absolutely,
I
you're
feel
right.
like I don't have to do as much when I post a reel versus when I post a static post. It's like, okay, I got to go make sure they see it because half of the time they can't see it.
Absolutely. And it's so annoying. And so I'm like, why am I wasting time with posts? I'm just going to invest all of my time in making a reel, because you're absolutely right. It takes a little, it gives your post such a small window for it to succeed versus reels. there are reels that I posted a week ago, and I see the views are still going up, and new people are still getting shown the reels. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you guys are not on reels, get on it.
Reels and Pinterest. Reels and Pinterest.
And
That should have been
SEO.
our title today.
All right, let's go back and see some of the questions. There was someone who was about to have a baby, and she wanted to know if you had any advice for her. Okay, here we go. Rachel, I'm about to be a first-time mommy, and I want to know what advice you would give me in order to balance having a new baby, and then after my maternity leave, how to balance my family life with creating content and building my blog after work.
Ooh, girl. A new baby. You need your rest, girl. Oh wow. I couldn't imagine having a new baby right now worrying about social media because it's a lot. So I would first say, get your rest. Like don't stress over that part. Social media is not going anywhere. They're showing us that, it's pretty much just here now. And if you is the baby here yet? Or she's
I don't believe the baby's here yet. No.
okay. Because with the baby, you can't even create office hours unless you're doing, while the baby's napping, which when the baby was napping, I was napping. Like, so just as, I love, wellness and mindfulness, I would say give yourself 3 months after the baby, to get into the groove with the new baby. I don't know if you already have other kids at home, but give yourself time to heal from, delivering and spending time with the baby, because the blog and social media is going to be there. Now, when you're ready to go, you're getting ready to go. Definitely creating those office hours. I think even if your office hours is only 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day, where you're going to put in that time to write or to create content. But I would be very, very mindful and gentle with yourself, coming back from delivering and knowing the pressures of social media. To me, your wellness and mental health is more important than social media right now. That's just
Wow.
from a wellness perspective.
I love that advice, Sharonda. So, Rachel, be very gentle with yourself. I think that those sound like very wise words. Blessing is asking, do you have any advice on utilizing Instagram insights?
Yeah, so with the insights, I check my insights at least weekly. So you want to look at your posts, like what posts are performing well, and then you kind of like want to create more of that, because I always say like that shows you like your sweet spot. So when I look at my insights, my posts that perform the best are almost always with my family. Like everybody wants to see all five of us together, doing something engaged, having fun. So I use my insights for that. As far as the posting times, they kind of guide you a little bit too, but I use the Tailwind app. That kind of helps a little bit too. And then sometimes the algorithm throws everything off anyway. That part doesn't even matter. But yeah, I think that's
great advice. Just using your insights to find what content your audience is most excited about and engaging with, so that you know what content to create more about. So, Courtney is asking, do you have any advice to get brands' attention while small with less than 1,000 followers?
yes. Right now, what I'm noticing is, and I want to go back to the beginning. When I started my Instagram page, I wasn't an influencer. I was a boutique owner. I hosted networking events and charity events. So a lot of my followers came from that. So I didn't start paying attention to numbers till about 2 years ago. And what I'm noticing now with numbers is, if you have even over 500 and you have really good engagement and your feed is like clear, the imagery is expressing yourself. Like you can't have like some of everything all over your page. Like they're looking for, you know, a clear message of who you are, and that you're even interested in working with brands. So maybe if you have a favorite lipstick or you have a favorite sunscreen, you can start creating content around and just sharing, oh, I left Sephora today. I just got, my new Fenty lipstick, whatever it is, just authentically sharing that on your page. And not often, don't do it all the time because again, they don't want to see you always selling, always pushing. But just creating, a nice, clean aesthetic, that's showing that you're interested without over like overly selling or overly sharing that.
That is great advice. I think when you are growing, you use that opportunity to create the content that you would like to be uh, paid for by a brand. So let's say you're starting off, and I can actually just share a very concrete example. I have, you won't believe it, another blog. It's called Dapper Animals, and we have just above 1,000 followers. We don't have very many followers. Um, I don't post on that blog very often, but when I do, when I feel creative, I have an idea, I create it, and I photograph it, and I create tutorials for people to be able to do what I'm doing. And then I either give them the template for free in exchange to joining our newsletter, or they can buy the template. So, like, if you have a Cricut or a Glowforge, you can purchase our little template for $5 or whatever, and then you can make that yourself. Now, we're not super duper active, and we don't have thousands and thousands of followers. That blog is very small, yet we still had a paid collaboration with Benzie Design, which is a craft store, because they saw exactly what it is that we do, and they're like, please do that for us. So it didn't matter, if we were established and how many followers we had. They saw the content, saw it was high quality, and they just wanted that. So I would focus in creating that high quality content that you would love to do for other brands. So
And
that's
another thing, when you're starting off, especially with, let's say under 2,000 followers or 1,000 followers, some of the platforms, like I think Heartbeat and Activate, like there's some platforms that you can sign up for, and depending on what that deal is, a lot of it's going to be product exchange, which isn't bad because you might get your favorite Fenty lipstick for free if in exchange for this picture. And then as your numbers grow, you're already in that system, in that platform, to get brand deals as the numbers grow, or as more collaborations are available, you can apply to those collaborations. So when I first started, that's what I was doing. Someone told me about different platforms, so I registered. And then of course a lot of them were just like either a free product or $50 or a gift card to Target, whatever it was. But at the time it's like, hey, you got to start somewhere.
That is great advice as well. So Katrina is saying, I struggle with reusing content slash photographs. I see fellow bloggers doing it, but I am hesitant. How do you decide how to repurpose photographs or content?
I repurpose all the time. um, it's just, you have to find a way, like you can turn it into a reel. You can turn it into a pin for Pinterest, Facebook, different things. You just have to decide, I'm familiar with Katrina's page. So you just have to decide what your theme's going to be for that week or that month, and then throw those other images. Because when I shoot content, I might have 10 to 15 images with that one product, where I'm only going to show one when it's due. So I might go in 2 weeks later, a month later, and show that product again, or show that image, a different image, but with the same outfit on or the same product. So it's just finding little ways to to plug it back in, because most of the time when you shoot, you're gonna have more than one good image of that content. So you don't want to waste it. So my photographer even said, because I was like, oh, I don't think I need to shoot for a while because summer's coming. She's like, well, you have a whole lot of content because we've been shooting, for months now. So there's like a bank of, oh, you need a fitness, you need, you in the kitchen making a smoothie, and you just kind of like on those days where, or those weeks where maybe you're traveling and you're not around to create content, like you already have content sitting there. All you need is a cute caption.
That is great. Yeah, definitely. You need to reuse your content. It takes so much work to make it. Why would you use it once and just forget about it? So that is important. But also, you want to do it as everything, you want to do it with intention. So it's good to have a strategy with how you're going to repurpose your content. So the best way to start is starting with your blog post. So creating a blog post that's a list or a series performs better on SEO than just one small blog post about one small thing, what we call thin content, which we'll be discussing in the SEO workshop. And we also have a repurposing content workshop in the next week, and I shared the link in the chat if you guys want to check that out. But so let's say you start with a blog, and I'm gonna use my blog for an example. So my blog is Coral Gables Love, and I talk about things to do in Miami or where I travel. So let's say I'm going to do a blog post about 10 cute coffee shops in Miami that you need to visit. Okay, so my blog post already has 10 different places. Each place has its own image. So I'm going to use that article, and I'm going to split up all of those ones into single Instagram posts. So there I have 10 posts on Instagram from one blog post, and I'm reusing that content. Also, I'm going to create Pinterest images with all of those images so that I can have 10 unique images on Pinterest, because Pinterest now doesn't like you reposting the same image over and over again. It wants what is called fresh pins, which we will also be discussing in a workshop that's coming up, Top by Tailwind. So we got you guys. So then you share that on Pinterest. Then you can do a reel about how these are 10 different, you probably can't fit 10 cafes in one reel. So you can split into 2 reels where each reel is 5 coffee shops to visit. Or you can start a series, right? So like coffee shops to visit in Miami part 1, and it has 3 coffee shops, and you have a reel about that. So now you have that reel that you created with those videos and images that you needed to make for your blog post. You can then now share that reel to Pinterest and to YouTube Shorts and to TikTok. So you can do this, and it's really helpful with your content planning, because you just have to start with intention from the beginning. If you don't, then you're going to have all of these disjointed images, and it's going to be harder for you to find a way to reuse them throughout your content. So that's kind of how you do it with a quick example.
I think that's awesome. I think that's awesome. But one thing too that when popped up is, if you all don't have a blog, like your own personal blog, like I highly, highly, highly recommend, because like she's saying, she's taking all this from a blog post that she created, which is hers, and she's going to always have that. But like, if you lose your Instagram or Pinterest, something, if it's gone tomorrow, you won't have that content. You might have it on your phone, but you won't have, what you created on, that feed, but your blog lives forever. And that's something that I learned. I paid more attention to last year. Is like, you have to own your own page. Like you have to have your own, don't depend solely on Instagram. And that's like, help me spend more time on my blog. So I'll take, images that maybe I thought, was just for Instagram or for a campaign, and use those on my blog now. And then the pins that I put on Pinterest is going to send you to my blog, not to my Instagram, because I want to keep building up my blog traffic, that whole SEO, Google Analytics thing. So I think that's important, what you brought up.
Absolutely. I think we might mention this in every single webinar. It always comes up. Make sure you build your own website because you truly own it, just as Sharonda told you right now. It's the only thing that you truly own. You don't own your social media channels. Instagram could decide to block you because you didn't follow the rules, or you could get hacked, or Instagram could go away, and then poof, all of your work is gone. And how do you reach those people? Well, unless you have your own website or in your own newsletter, then that's the only way that you truly own, and you can always reach those people. So great advice, Rhonda. Thank you. Brianna is asking, how do you combat Instagram's algorithm and getting content seen?
I have, like, Paola, you can have that one.
Oh, you got it. I think the key here with your statement is combat Instagram algorithm. I think the way to get around this is, just as we said, we don't own our social media channels, right? And we know that they use the algorithm to share content to our people that are following us. So instead of fighting it, use the knowledge of what they tell us of how the algorithm works to use it for your benefit. So during this conversation, we talked about how Reels is really working, how static posts aren't performing as well. And that's when you feel like you're spinning your wheels, you're doing all this work to create this, and you're not getting the results. So right now, what are the Instagram social media networks focusing on? So the social media network that is growing the most is TikTok. So all the other social networks are trying to compete with TikTok. So right now, if you upload a vertical video to YouTube and use hashtag shorts, they're going to push that way more than a regular video because they're trying to compete with TikTok. The same thing on Instagram. If you create an Instagram reel, they are really showing that organically to your followers way more because they're trying to get you to spend less time on TikTok. One of the strategies to know also is, okay, so one of the things to know is they always show their new features organically to more people. So always, whenever you see a new feature, get on that feature. So what's another new feature they launched recently? Live rooms, that you can have lives with other people. Try doing lives, try doing reels. Also use ways to get your people that are following you to interact with your content, because what is another thing that the algorithm uses to decide whether to show your content? One of those things is relationship. What is your relationship with your followers? So if you have a very active relationship with someone, I don't know if like you have a best friend, you tag each other all the time, you send each other messages all the time, and surprise, that person always shows up on your feed. It's because you guys have a very active relationship. Instagram knows that you guys are good friends, so they're showing you that content. So you want your followers to look like your best friends to Instagram. So ask them questions using stories, ask them questions in your captions so that they respond to your comments, ask them to send you a DM for a link. So use all of the stories interactive tools, because those are great ways to engage with people. People love answering polls, they love asking questions. So we could keep going on. But those are a few
Those
tips.
are awesome. Those are great. This was great.
Okay, awesome. Let's see if we have any other question. Okay, Shakila is asking, how do you plan your story content, and how do you decide if it should be in your feed or you're in your story? I think we'll take one more question because we're already over time, and we'll call it a day. Go for it.
So I'm just getting more consistent with my stories. I struggle with stories. I don't know why, because I like to talk. I just struggle with stories. But basically in my feed is going to be more static, more static posts, a reel here or there, or IGTV. But in my stories, that's where I'll put like little snippets of the day. So like working out, people want to know, what are you eating? What are you drinking? where are you going? Like those kind of things. What you found at Zara, so I might have little snippets in my stories, along the day, throughout the day. I haven't been very vocal in my stories, so that's something that I'm working on because everybody's doing it. And it's like, again, you want to keep the whole point. Instagram is trying to keep people on Instagram. So they want to see you talking more and sharing more throughout the day. So I recommend, sharing more, talking more, don't be shy. I'm like, I'm not shy, but I'm like, every time I get on there, I'm like, is anybody even listening to me? Whereas like in your feed, you kind of know like, okay, this person saw it, that person saw it, whatever. But I think the main thing is consistency, like being consistent. Like I'm gonna show up every day, whether it's in the feed or reel or IGTV, story. I have my affirmations, I share affirmations usually once or twice a week through a reel. But just, don't just post, once a month or every other week and think that, it's going to grow, because it's not going to grow that way. And brands also notice that, oh, they're only posting, on the first of the month or whatever it is. So being consistent in your stories, being consistent in your feed, and on your blog, like, you want to pay attention to your blog. You don't have to post often on your blog, but you do want to show your blog some love, at least once a month, I would think, you know.
Oh, that's great advice. Sharonda is on it. She's just delivering gems. All right, our last question that we have time for today. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of your questions, but we have run out of time. Is Nessa, and she's asking, "Hey Sharonda, are you pitching or do brands approach you?"
Hey, Nessa. So I haven't pitched yet. And it's funny because all my friends are like, what? You're not pitching, you're missing out. I haven't pitched. Um, I don't know why I haven't pitched. I just haven't. Brands reach out to you, I think, like Paula said, like when they see that, you're consistent, that you're putting in the work, your feed is clean and clear, your message is clear. Um, if you search, I gave an example to my friend. If you search a hashtag, let's say hashtag mom of three, and when you look at that feed of what comes up, you can point, like you can, from that hashtag, you can see like the vibrancy, like what's jumping out at you. And if you go and click on that image, it leads you to their whole feed and you can kind of get the groove or whatever. And so I think, I'm not 100% sure, but a lot of collaborations that I've been getting lately has been from hashtags where they see like, oh, fitness, oh, wellness, oh, mom, and they see, your imagery is clear, your message is clear, and they go to your feed and it's still consistent. And it's like, oh, we want to work with you. We like your vibe. We like, what you're producing. And they see that you're consistent. And so like, oh, she's really serious about this. So that's what's been working for me in the last 6 months. Just being clear and consistent. I do put in a lot of work, and I think, that pays off. I'm heavy on law of attraction, you attract what you put out. And just, I think that's why I haven't pitched because I was like, sometimes you can go after something that's not for you. Sorry, my dogs are barking. But yeah, sometimes you can, be out there, fighting and, ruffling through, and it's not really for you. However, I am going to take a pitching class this week. So hopefully the next time we meet, I would have, pitched my first brand.
Okay, wonderful. That's so great to hear, Sharonda, that you're so busy, and that's all brands that just reach out to you. We can't imagine how busy you're going to be next time we see you now that you start pitching. So that is wonderful. Thank you, everyone, so much for your time, for joining us. Thank you, Sharonda, for sharing your story of how your journey is going with all of us. I think you shared some really great tips on how to balance this crazy content creation thing that we do.
Thank you. Thank you guys for joining us.
And then thank you everyone for being so engaged in our conversation. I really appreciate all of you guys turning up and being really active. If you want to know what other events are coming up, I shared our upcoming calendar. If you go to thebloggerunion.eventbrite.com, I shared the link in the chat. You can see what webinars we have coming up. We have SEO on Thursday, and then we have content planning the following week, and we're going to focus that content planning on repurposing content. And then we have how to get more saves on Pinterest, which should turn into traffic, and that's going to be taught actually by a sponsor, Tailwind, so it's going to be real good. And the list goes on. So we will see you next week at our following webinar. Thanks everyone for joining us, and I'll talk again soon.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.